You know, Wuthering Waves so far has been pretty good at making different factions that are believable, but also interesting in the context of a post-apocalyptic world. From the Fraxidas, which basically want the third impact to happen, to the Black Shores that are like, maybe let's not do that? And also, while we're at it, let's take a record of everything in the history of Solaris and create quite literally the Magi from Evangelion, but I'm gonna save all my Eva connections for another time. Throughout the 2.0 story, there was one faction that played a major role in Rinascita's affairs, a religious group that holds a massive amount of political power, shaping the nation's future in both the open and behind the scenes, their name being the Order of the Deep. But who are they really, what do they stand for, and what might they be planning next? Hello everybody, my name is Tomoyou, your resident Italian gacha addict, and today we'll be going over everything you need to know about the Order of the Deep. First and foremost, what is the Order of the Deep? To answer that, obviously we need to talk about how the Order was formed. In ancient times, not known to us exactly how far back, in Rinascita there were two rival divinities, one that ruled the skies and one that ruled the seas. The followers of these two divinities continually waged war against one another, up until the First Dark Tide, a wave-worn phenomenon native to Rinascita that ravaged the land and was stopped by Napoli II, first Primus and founder of the Order, who then took the reins of the post-First Dark Tide Rinascita. I mentioned First Dark Tide because two are currently known, and the second is directly related to the character of Cartetia, which I have so many theories for. I'm just gonna say it's totally possible we see a third Dark Tide, but I'm just gonna stop it here. Also, by the way, the name Napoli is an Italian city, and its name comes from the Greek term Neapolis, that literally means new city, because it was refounded by the Greek colonizers around 500 BC. And in Wuwa, you can kind of see it as with Napoli, a new era for Rinascita began, which, by the way, Rinascita actually means rebirth in Italian, so you can loosely connect it here as well. And in general in the story there's been quite a lot of clashes of new versus old, but that's another tangent for another time. And that's basically how the Order came to be and why they have so much power. But let's look a bit further into what their self-proclaimed identity is. For this, we have the book Codex of the Deep, which in-game is divided into 3 items. First one, containing the preface, which in my opinion is the most important, introduces the Order and explains its basic doctrines. The second and third ones, Codex of the Deep, Order Philosophy 1 and 2 respectively, containing general philosophies and doctrines that aren't really super important for us to know. Let's go over the first book that, as I've said before, is the most interesting and gives us more context to some of the actions taken by them over the 2.0 story quest and Rinascita's larger history. The book starts off with the Order addressing the criticism that the Sentinel has never revealed its true form, and therefore their belief in it is questionable. Obviously, they refute this claim by affirming how the Sentinel's actions have been recorded throughout history, and that they have been watching over us silently. Which, by the way, this is right. This is not wrong. Quote, "Their destined path created a better world for mankind, leaving us to shape a new future, while they silently watch over us. We are grateful for their blessings. We follow in their deeds by disseminating wisdom that guides all towards good. Such is the mission of the Order of the Deep." Next up, they decide to address 3 questions. Who is the Sentinel Imperator? What is the Order's doctrine? Is there evidence to support the doctrine of the Order? Starting off with the first question about the identity of the Sentinel Imperator, they honestly just yap a bit about their meaning and importance, but then acknowledge that Imperator is not the only divinity, for they have spoken of sentinels in distant lands, with powers that control day and night, the flow of time, or all knowledge and wisdom, end quote. The one of time reference here is clearly Jue, by the way. What they do believe is that Imperator has the power to split the seas, bringing places to breathe for humanity, and as such they are elevated to a higher status than the other sentinels. By the way, here split is in quotes, which I'm not quite sure what that means, but undeniably Imperator has some sort of power over the seas, as Cetus the Tidebreaker is also closely related to it, as we've learned during the fishing event. But it was seen that the Threnodian was actually the divinity that ruled over the seas prior to the First Dark Tide, so I'm kind of stumped here. If you guys got an explanation, put it in the comments down below. In short, while they believe in the existence of divinities other than Imperator, they follow Imperator as their power is, in their opinion, the foremost among the other divinities. Although I would say ruling over time is a bigger deal than this, but it is what it is. To answer the second question of what is the Order's doctrine, they have a few paragraphs I'll just read over. "This mortal world is a boundless sea in which every soul must swim up to the divine. Life flows in waves, and only by reaching the shore do we reach the dawn of civilization. Our sentinel is salvation from the gales and tides, is the unity from which Rinascita was born, and is ascension for our souls. The Order's doctrines are thus salvation, ascension, and unity. Salvation. By the grace of the sentinel, their followers must deliver salvation to others. Nary are we blind to injustice or suffering. We labor to save others from sin, To the wicked, the Order provides salvation, and for the unrepentant, may we exact penitence. The most important part to us is the penitence part, which translates into the Pilgrim Sale, aka the exiling they do, and in the in-game archives is described as: those deemed faithless by the Order of the Deep are sent to voyage upon the Pilgrim Sale, following the ancient path of those who once braved the mist and maelstrom, seeking the Sentinel's guidance. At the journey's end, it is said Sentinel Imperator will offer them forgiveness and promise of new life. But no one in Ragunna has ever heard of a faithless pilgrim returning from this sacred journey. Everything here is describing what happened to every member of the false troop and the many more who simply didn't make it. Fun fact, as early as 20 years ago, this practice did not exist in the Order's doctrines, and I can only assume they were directly added by current Primus Fenrico. The next two doctrines, being Ascension and Unity, are honestly not as important currently to our understanding of the story, as they don't really explain much. Ascension means that every member of the Order can indulge in their desires and must lead a life of virtue in order to elevate their spirit, a pretty standard thing in religion. And then there's Unity, which in the preface is explained as members of the Orders are brothers and sisters, as you would expect in any religion, but in the book Philosophy 2, we learn that this doctrine was developed by the current Primus Fenrico, and it is apparently inspired by the all-encompassing nature of water. Don't worry, I don't get it either. It states that, quote, any heretical theory that undermines or challenges this faith is seen as a dagger aimed at the art of truth itself. Such ideas threaten the existence of those around them and risk tearing apart the fabric of society, bringing calamity and destruction to the city by the sea. The Primus believes that whenever the ideology of division reaches its zenith, which I can only surmise means when people don't do as the Order says, the calamity of the Dark Tide will descend from above, endangering the very existence of Rinascita. For this reason, even the Carnevale must be overseen by the Order. And that's why, of course, they were messing with how the Montelli family wanted to handle things during the Carnevale, and also probably gives us the motivation for why Fenrico most likely added a pilgrim sale to the doctrines. Guess he realized the easiest way to deal with dissidents is to just kill them. For the third and final question of, is there evidence to support the doctrine of the Order? It's a religion, you can guess how they replied. The Sentinel guides civilization, and we trust their word. That's it. And now that we got a pretty good understanding of what their ideology is about, let's quickly talk about the structure. It's not really that important, but you never know. In case a new character comes from one of these three branches, we might as well learn now what they are about. The first branch of the Order is the Order Tribunal. The Order's secular judicial body that handles civil and criminal matters between families and commoners. Now, I have a couple of doubts that the Tribunal is actually secular, as it is literally owned by the religious group, but that's what they claim. The second one is the Chamber of Discipline, the Order's executive arm that commands the military and enforces the law. They heavily employ echoes in combat, and its enforcers are often called Inquisitors. I could totally see a new character coming from this, and as a Resonator they have the power to make use of echoes, but we haven't seen anything like that yet, I don't think. And last we have the Order Penitentiary, the Order's religious court that trials heretics and faithless who question and defy the divine teachings of the Sentinel, meaning they have a court just for heresy and things of the like. Rinascita is a de facto theocracy, I don't think anybody would disagree with this. By the way, in the book Witchcraft, Spies and Complaints, which is honestly very fucking interesting, we learn that every echo with an halo on it is a spy of the Order and serving as angels, and they're always seen alongside the acolytes, serving as the Order's minions to take out and find the heretics. Which is a very scary thought because these echoes are all around in Rinascita, but I'll leave it at that. And now we know everything there is to know, but there is some trivia I wanted to mention. First off, when they join the Order, all acolytes are given a new name known as their holy name, meaning Phoebe should have another name, and I can't find it, not even in her intimacy trivia. Second little fun fact is that the Strange White Cat, aka the Ivory Gatekeeper from Elusive Realm, has found out that very few dreams in Rinascita come from members of the Order. What that mean? I honestly don't know, but it might be something to look out for in the future. Speaking of the future, what's next for the Order? Us, Rinascita, and just Wuthering Waves. Let's talk about some crackhead theories of mine. As I've mentioned before, in my opinion, it is totally possible that we see a third Dark Tide happening in Rinascita during the next chapters of the 2.x story. It seems like too good of a chance to not have it come back, especially because of the character of Cartethia and its supposed relation to the Threnodian. At the end of the 2.0 main story quest, we learn from Fenrico that she was the Blessed Maiden, previously known as Fleur-de-Lis, that 20 years ago made herself martyr to stop the Dark Tide. But again, according to Fenrico, Cartethia was never the Imperator's Resonator, but she was actually the Threnodian, which is a big shell to drop because you're basically telling us that there may be a Resonator for each Threnodian. Like, I don't know, does anyone remember a certain Overthrax? The fucking Threnodian of War? The one that quietly escaped at the end of the 1.0 story? Like, are we just gonna forget that? But really, I just don't see a world where Cartethia plays a big role in the story, which she obviously will, and we don't see a Thernodian or the Dark Tide happening. Now, will it actually be because of Cartetia herself? I wouldn't be able to tell you, but in my opinion, there's reason to believe Cartetia may actually be a resonator of both, or may have become the resonator of the Threnodian post-mortem, but that's honestly just speculation on my part. I have no proof. So I'll just stop right here for today. Thank you for making it to the end of the video. More crack theories coming soon. I've been Tomoyou. Follow me on Twitch, join the Discord, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what I've missed, and do all the YouTube things you guys already know. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace.